There is a Chinese proverb that says women hold up half of the sky. However, you would be hard-pressed to see the proverb observed in China or the world at large. Many women are unhappy with this state of affairs, including Facebook's Chief Operating Officer, Sheryl Sandberg. In her new book Lean In, Sandberg stresses gender equality and the female empowerment. She hopes to encourage women to break free from their self-limitations and be unafraid to lead.
How important do you think it is for women to strive to be leaders? Because so many people argue that you don't have to do this.
It depends what we want as a world. So we live in a world now that is overwhelmingly run by men. There are hundreds of countries, there are 16 heads of state who are female. If we want to live in a world overwhelmingly run by men, then it's fine. But I don't want to live in that world. Because I think when we have more voices at the table, better decisions will be made. You know, all over the world, people quote the Chinese proverb that women hold up half the sky. All over the world, when people talk about equality, they quote that Chinese proverb. You know, my question would be, if we believe women can hold up half the sky, certainly they can have half the seats in the boardroom as well.
And when they are leaders, they are more likely to have their voice heard.
That's right. And if there are more female leaders, we will stop disliking female leaders.
And also for women, success is sometimes negatively correlated for women. Like the more successful they are, the more likable they seem to be with their colleagues. And
or disliked they are for women.
Disliked.
That's exactly right. And that is the core of the problem. Everywhere in the world, as men get more successful, they are better liked, they are more attractive for marriage, it's all positive. Everywhere in the world, as women get more successful, it's more mixed. They are sometimes less attractive for marriage. And that is why we don't have as many women in leadership roles.
Mm-hmm. And would you mind sacrifice likability to be successful?
That's right. Well, women face that trade-off. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that the reason women face that trade-off is because there are so few powerful women. That as there are more powerful women, that trade-off won't exist. One of the reasons I wrote Lean In is because when my daughter was 4, we played her a song of all the American presidents. And she looked up and said, "Mommy, why are they all boys?" I have a friend in Germany. He thought, my friend, her son told her that he couldn't be prime minister because he wasn't a girl, because Angela Merkel is the only leader he has ever known. And so this is about changing those stereotypical assumptions, and the more women who succeed, the more they change.
And as a leader, do you want to be liked or feared?
I want to be liked. In fact, it's very important to be liked because people want to promote people who are not just competent, but they're liked. And so men can so easily be competent and liked, be leaders and be liked. And women have these much more difficult trade-offs. Again, that's because we don't have enough female leaders. If we have more, every woman, every single woman in China, every woman in the US who leans in and leads, makes it easier for the woman who follows.
When you first worked in the World Bank, one of your colleagues joked that you didn't know the lotus. But you went ahead and learned it and move on. So how do you think it is very necessary for women to be really fully 100% prepared for a job to take that?
Yeah, so that's what the data shows. The data shows that women will apply for jobs when they have 100% of the criteria, and men when they have 60. That holds women back. And so I still like to be very prepared. I prepare a lot for everything I do. But I also recognize that I can't always be perfectly prepared, and I can still raise my hand.
Female leaders are often depicted in films as unmarried with messy personal lives. Such stereotypes pose a significant problem for women as they create environments in which female leaders are demeaned and looked down upon. Described as one of the most powerful women in the world by Forbes and Time magazines, Sandberg says she has been the target of stereotyping all her life, with many people describing her as bossy. And now she hopes to shake that stereotype.
And one problem is that in many films, like, female leaders are depicted as very, very bossy.
Yes.
And and like the devil in Prada, and they are always like unmarried and don't have children.
That's right.
And their private life is kind of a mess.
Kind of a mess. That's right.
What do you think they stereotype?
Oh, I think that stereotype is a huge problem. Even the word bossy. We use the word bossy to talk about little girls. We do not use that word to talk about little boys, because when a boy leads, it's expected. When a girl leads, we don't like it. And so even the use of that word is problematic and something that I would like to change. I say to audiences, I'll say it tonight, next time you're about to call your daughter bossy, say instead, my daughter has executive leadership skills.
Would you say that to your daughter?
I do say that to my daughter. But here's what's interesting. You say my daughter has executive leadership skills, it's funny, everywhere in the world. You say my son has executive leadership skills, there's no humor. That's because humor goes against type. If something's expected, it's not funny. So it is so ingrained in us that boys lead and girls don't, that we are shocked into laughing by the idea of a girl as a leader.
So this is probably what the schools and parents should also do to to eliminate or reduce this leadership ambition gap.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. This fall, my foundation is going to launch a campaign called Stamp Out Bossy. We are going to try to get rid of the word, if we can.
Have you ever been called like bossy?
My whole life.
Would you do something to be like both likable and also, you've mentioned that sometimes people so want to be like that they hold them back.
Oh yes, I mean my book is filled with stories of myself. So when I was in high schools in the United States, they sometimes have contests and the kids vote on who is the most likely to succeed. And I was picked as the most likely to succeed in my high school. And I got my friend who was on that team to pull my name off because I thought it was embarrassing.
Yes.
Now, if I had been a boy, I would have felt great about being the most likely to succeed. When I was in business school, the stories in my book, there were many men in the class who did very well. I did very well. All the men told everyone, I told no one. In fact, I was embarrassed to tell the story even in the book.
Self-doubt.
Even in the book. And that's the issue. That for women, it comes with much more complications. But again, I think that's what Lean In can fix.
And would you like to call yourself a feminist?
So in my book, I come out and I say, yes, I'm a feminist.
Yes.
I also say that it's not an easy word to use. That if you had asked me if I was a feminist even 5 years ago, I would have said no. I don't want to be a feminist. It's a difficult word.
Yes.
Now, if you ask people, are you a feminist? They often say no. If you ask people, do you believe in equality between the genders? They often say yes. And so I would like us to embrace that word, but I don't think that word matters. What matters is that we want equality and we understand how important equality is for all of us.
Sandberg said women stop preparing for pregnancy years before they actually conceive and often turn down good job opportunities as a result. Sandberg speaks from experience. In 2008, she was asked to join Facebook just 7 months after the birth of a second child. Although she admitted the timing wasn't perfect, she said if she had waited, someone else would have taken the job. Before Facebook, Sandberg was a vice president of global online sales and operations at Google. Sandberg got married in 2004 to David Goldberg, a tech engineer with whom she has 2 children. She and her husband are trying to share the responsibilities of childcare and housework evenly. She said career women should avoid immediately looking for an exit when entering the workforce, as well as ensure that their partner is a real partner.
And also pregnancy is often slows down women's career. They have to plan ahead many years before they actually get
That's
pregnant.
right.
And they turn down many great job opportunities.
Yes.
And
I think that is a mistake.
yeah.
It's fine to turn down job opportunities once you have a child, but turning them down years in advance holds women back. And sometimes if you lean in and you become more senior, you actually have more flexibility, more control, a higher salary. There's a lot of reason to really lean in up until the point you have to make a hard choice.
When you took Facebook's offer, you were like it was 7 months almost like after you.
That's right, and it was the wrong time.
Yes, the timing wasn't perfect.
Wasn't perfect, but if I had waited, someone else would have been in the job.
So that probably is the advice you would give to other women, just to
yes.
take risks.
That's right, and I want to be careful. I'm not telling every woman she has to have a career like mine. I'm not saying that lots of women don't want to make a choice to work in the home. All of that's fine. I want every woman to have her own choices. I just don't want women to limit themselves unnecessarily. 3 years before they start having children. I don't want them to hold themselves back too early.
Mm-hmm. And how does your husband feel when in recent years you stand out and promote for gender equality?
He did this with me. I couldn't have done this without my husband. We have a son and a daughter, and he wants what I want, which is more opportunity for both of them.
How are you trying to achieve this 50-50 family model? I mean, a lot of people are trying, but it's very difficult.
It's very difficult. It goes back and forth. You know, some weeks, like this week, he does much more. I'm in China this week. Some weeks I do much more, and we have to continually balance it. It's not easy, but we try. And we try not just because it's good for us, but because it's good for our children. In any country in the world, no matter how active a mother is, at any income level, when fathers are more engaged with their children, those children have better educational outcomes, they do better in work, and they're happier.
And when you are working with Mark, I mean, Facebook is kind of a boyish culture. How did you kind of lead them to inspire them to manage without damage this spontaneity and this flow of innovative ideas?
So what I focus on is having the right systems and processes that create the systems we need without squashing creativity. So, you know, there are things that we have to do well, and there are things when we can take more risk. And I think the question is figuring out what those things are and keeping our culture alive.
Sandberg recently visited China to promote her book Leaning, as well as participate in the recently concluded Summer Davos Forum in North China city of Dalian. According to the CITIC Press Corporation, which is the book's publisher, about 130,000 copies of the book have been sold in China since it was published in July. Sandberg says she believes China's strong economic growth should be partly attributed to its high rate of female participation in the workforce. But women's active participation in the workforce hasn't resulted in a high percentage of female leaders. China's ranking on the World Economic Forum's Gender Equality Index fell to 69 last year from 57 in 2008.
In the United States, women get married like 35 is still normal, having children after that. But in China, it's just not the case. They were always encouraged, urged to get married and marry early. What do you think of this kind of cultural differences?
In every country in the world, the United States, China, having more women in the workforce is important for economic growth. You know, you look at the economic growth of China, which is one of the wonders of the world, and in order for it to continue, women are going to have to be fully invested in the workforce here.
And after reading your book, I find one thing very interesting is that what you said about women in America is sometimes also true to both Chinese men and women.
Yes.
For example, we are discouraged to be outspoken, to be self-serving, self-promoting, or neither taking risk or advocating for oneself is encouraged. What do you think of the cultural differences?
No, I think that's true. I think what I say about women in my book can also be applied to many, many other groups. In fact, on part of my book tour, I met a man who's at Harvard Business School, and he is starting lean-in circles for Asian Americans because he believes that the Asian population in America faces those same challenges as women. So he's starting lean-in circles, which are groups of 8 to 10 people who agree to meet monthly, focused on Asian Americans.
In China, women always prioritize their family over career, and they think it's better to marry a rich man than have a successful career. What do you think of this notion?
I think that all over the world, we believe that a happy couple is the man being more successful than the woman. Why is it that we think men have to be more successful than women in the workplace and at home, as long as we think that, we will never get to equality. Why can't our image of a couple, some couples the man is more successful, some couples the woman, some couples the man is more educated, some couples the woman. We need broader definitions of acceptability, and that will get us to equality.